It's week 5 of the NFL, and we give you our best 3 bets for this Sunday, and it all starts right now. Hey guys, it's Matt from Grandstand Bettors.com, and we have our best 3 bets for week 5 in the NFL. Before we get to those, just a reminder, hit that subscribe button for all our free picks, predictions, and contests throughout the season. And while you're at it, smash that like button if you are ready for another fun-filled Sunday of NFL football. I know I am. So without further ado, let's dive into our first matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 1 p.m. Eastern time slot. Bucs 10-point favorites at the moment. Over-under is set at 46.5 points. Now, the Falcons are coming into this matchup with a little bit of confidence, having won 2 in a row after defeating the Cleveland Browns 23-20 at home last week. Honestly, if it wasn't for a Will Lutz last-second field goal in week number 1, this team could be 3-1. Marcus Mariota has been mediocre at best, but he has managed the offense fairly well, throwing for 800 yards on the season, but has more interceptions than touchdowns. So, how are the Falcons scoring and winning this season? Well, their rushing attack has been phenomenal. They're ranked 4th in the NFL with 168 yards rushing per game, with Patterson and Algier combining already for 500 yards and 5.5 yards per carry. However, as we saw last week, Patterson is injured and now has been put on the IR, so it's Algier's team this week. He's going to have Caleb Huntley backing him up. Normally, I would say the Bucs team would be hard to run against, but just last week, they allowed over 189 yards to the Kansas City Chiefs on the ground, so who knows what rushing defense shows up this week. Now, their secondary, the Bucs, also middle of the road this year, just about 210 yards per game given up. Not the same defense we are used to over the last few years with Tampa Bay. Now, even with that said, before last week's thrashing from the Chiefs, the Bucs going into week 4 were only giving up 9 points per game. So let's talk about the Bucs and Tom Brady. They're 2-2 on the season, losing to the Packers and the Chiefs. Tom Brady in the offense was not the problem last week. Brady had the best game of the season, putting up nearly 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He now has over 1,000 yards on the season and has thrown for 6 touchdowns and only 1 interception. Having Mike Evans back is key for this Bucs offense, as he is the vertical route runner for Brady, averaging 14.7 yards per catch. Evans has 5 less receptions than Russell Gage, but has over 70 more yards and has also played in 1 less game. That just tells you how much he's needed in the offense. Now, the rushing attack with Fournette leading the way has not been good. They average as a team 3.1 yards per carry, only rushing 65.3 yards per game, which is second worst in the NFL. They may look to Fournette a little more this week, as Atlanta is in the bottom third of the league, giving up 126 yards on the ground per game. But honestly, Fournette has been most effective out of the backfield, already having 16 receptions for over 110 yards this season. So what is our best bet in this battle for first place in the NFC South? Well, let's be honest, the Bucs defense has not played up to its ability this season, but they have easily won against the 2 bad teams they played. The Falcons, we would say, is not a bad team, but the Buccaneers' passing offense behind Brady should at least beat the Falcons. Yes, we know that Brady is dealing with a shoulder injury that kept him out of practice on Wednesday, but listen, even with Blaine Gabbert taking the snaps this week, the Falcons' secondary is still one of the worst in the NFL. So, with our first pick for NFL week number 5, we're going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 10 over the Falcons. Now, for our second matchup for week number 5, we are going to look at the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Arizona Cardinals in the 4:30 p.m. Eastern time slot. Eagles minus 5.5 point favorites, and the over-under at the moment set at 48.5. Philadelphia Eagles 4-0, the only undefeated team in the NFL, and Jalen Hurts looks like he has turned a corner this season and left everybody in the dust that doubted him. He has over 1,100 yards passing and has featured A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, most in the passing game, with all of them having over 16 receptions and 240 yards receiving, with actually Brown having over 400 yards already on the season. Now, Hurts has not only been slinging the ball, but has already racked up 200 rushing yards. And if you add in Sanders and all these other running backs by a somewhat committee for the Eagles, this team averages 4.3 yards per carry. Good enough to be top 5 in the league at the moment. That might not stay true this week as the Cardinals have a top 5 rushing defense, only allowing 87 yards on the ground per game. In fact, they held McCaffrey last week to only 27 yards rushing. So let's talk about those Cardinals. They look like a lot of teams in the NFL coming into week 5 sitting at 2-2. Kyler Murray is not the same QB that we've seen in the last 2 years, but to be fair to him, he doesn't have the weapons around him that he needs to be successful. His stats, a little deceiving too, although he has thrown for over or about 1,000 yards on the season and a 65% completion rate. This guy's only averaging 5.7 yards per pass play. Their rushing attack is doing well behind Connor and Benjamin, but they're only averaging about 4 yards per carry, or just about 4 yards. Now, they're going up against a top 10 defense in the league, as the Eagles only allowing 17.8 points per game. Their secondary only giving up 177 yards through the air. However, this defense is really hit or miss. They held the Vikings to 7 points, playing a bad Commanders team, also held them under 10 points, but they gave up 35 points to the Lions and 21 to the Jags. So you just kind of don't know what Eagles defense you're going to see from week to week. So what is our best bet in this NFC mid-afternoon matchup? Well, the Cardinals don't really have a great rushing attack, and that shows considering that they're averaging second most passes in the NFL with 44 per game. Now, the Eagles, they also throw 30-plus times per game, and they're going to be going up against a top 5 rushing defense this week. So we think that Hurts and this team are going to be slinging the ball around just a little bit more than normal. With Murray starting to find Marquise Brown, Dortch, and Ertz down the field and grow a rapport with these receivers, we like the Cardinals to get over that 20-point total again, as they have done so in 3 of the first 4 games. With the Eagles clicking on full cylinders on offense and Hurts airing it out this week, it only makes sense that our second best bet for week number 5 is going to be Eagles-Cardinals over 48.5 points. Now, before we get into our final NFL pick for week number 5 in the NFL, just a reminder, if you're looking for our full card of NFL, college football, and all sports plays, head on over to grandstandbettors.com, become part of our family. Links below in the description, and we look forward to seeing you join us real soon. But we still have one more best bet for our YouTube subscribers this week, and that is going to take us to the matchup between AFC East division rivals, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets in the 1 p.m. Eastern time slot. Dolphins favored by 3 at the moment. The over-under set at 45.5 points. Dolphins 3-1 on the season, and who knows how it's going to go from here on out. As we all know, Tua was knocked out of Thursday Night Football at the beginning of week number 4, and no timetable has really been set for his full return on the season. Not all is lost, though, for Miami. They have Teddy Bridgewater, who's going to take over, and he's another backup in the league that can manage offenses in the NFL. Obviously, Vegas sees it that way as well because the Dolphins are still a 3-point favorite against the Jets on the road. In early action this season, the biggest problem, though, with Bridgewater has been his accuracy, only completing 56% of his passes, but that will come with reps with the first team. Rushing attack needs to take pressure off of Bridgewater, though, and that means playing better. Through 4 weeks, the Dolphins as a team only averaging 3.5 yards per carry, which is 4th worst in the NFL. And the bad news is they get to play a Jets team that honestly is not bad on the defensive side of the ball. They're in the top half of the league in rushing defense and passing defense. And let's talk about those 2-2 Jets. Honestly, if it wasn't for the miracle in Cleveland, they should be 1-3, but we're not going to relive those thoughts again. Zach Wilson is back on this team, and last week he led the Jets to a win over the Steelers. But let's be honest, did Wilson lead them to a win, or was it Kenny Pickett throwing 3 interceptions in that game which handed the Jets a win? Either way, Wilson went for 18-36 for 252 and 2 interceptions and throwing 1 TD. Braxton Berrios actually looked like a better passer in the game, throwing for a touchdown on 1 pass. The craziest thing about this team is considering their QBs and the potential with their young running backs, they still continue to throw the ball 50 times a game, which is first in the NFL. This is surprising considering that Breece Hall is almost averaging 5 yards per carry. We're not sure why they don't use him more, but they should. So, what's our best bet with this AFC East matchup? Well, listen, the Dolphins' rushing attack sucks. And although we think that they are going to have to get some pressure off of Bridgewater by using the rushing attack more, they still are going to have to throw the ball a lot this week. The Jets, on the other hand, their rushing attack also sucks too, but it's not because it's because they don't use it at all. Breece Hall needs to get more carries. Carter needs to get more carries. Wilson is going to continue to throw the ball all over the place, and he could throw for another 50 times this week against the Dolphins. Combined on the season, Bridgewater and Wilson have thrown a combined 3 interceptions on 61 pass attempts already. So we do expect in this game there to be some turnovers, maybe some pick sixes, and the other team's offense is going to start in great field position in a few positions in this game. So with our last pick of NFL week number 5, we're going to take the Miami Dolphins and the Jets over 45.5 points with just how many times they throw the ball in the game. So that does it for us here at Grandstand Bettors. As always, sit back, enjoy week 5 of NFL football, and we'll see you live on Sunday for Browns versus Chargers. See you then.